Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Very interesting statements coming from Berlusconi, Silvio Berlusconi, former Prime Minister of Italy. He's he's very friendly with Putin. He used to be very friendly with Putin, so I might see something in his statements that have to do with that personal friendship or collaboration. But I think that let's see what he says first, okay? This article comes from Reuters from September 23rd, 2022. Putin was, quote-unquote, pushed into Ukraine war, says Italy's Berlusconi. Well, I said, okay, well, let's see. Because to a certain extent, his hand was forced to do certain things, but I don't know if he identifies the individuals or the forces that worked on that. Russian President Vladimir Putin was, quote-unquote, pushed into invading Ukraine and wanted to put, quote-unquote, decent people in charge of Kiev, former Italian Silvio Berlusconi has said, drawing fierce criticism just ahead of Italy's election. Well, I don't think it's Vladimir Putin's job to put anybody in any other country's charge, if you know what I mean. You mind your business, they mind their business. He said, don't mind their business. Well, there are other methods, but Berlusconi says it like it's something that is a given, that Putin can just go in Kiev and say, you're the leader, you're going, you're coming. I mean, after all, he's not United States, right? The Italian leader, whose Forza Italia party belongs to a right-wing coalition expected to win the general election on Sunday, is a longtime friend of Putin, and his comments are likely to alarm Western allies. He's going to win some votes in Italy and lose some. Okay, this is the quote. Putin was pushed by the Russian people, by his party, by his ministers to come up with this special operation, end quote. Berlusconi told Italian public television RAI late on Thursday, using the official Russian wording for the war. Russia's, well, if some people like to identify themselves as cats and dogs, and we have to respect that, I guess if those guys identify whatever they say they're doing with that, we should respect that too. They're human beings after all, right? No, okay, my bad. So Russia's plan was originally to conquer Kiev, quote-unquote, in a week and replace the democratically elected Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky with, quote-unquote, a government of decent people and get out in another week, he said. Well, he might have been, Volodymyr Zelensky might have been democratically elected by part of the population, of the electorate of Ukraine. That means he's not actually legitimate. That's the first thing. And the second one, I wonder who counted those votes. It's not a coincidence, but anyway, I'm quoting, I haven't even understood why Russian troops spread around Ukraine while in my mind they should have only struck around Kiev, said the 85-year-old Berlusconi, who once described Putin as being like a younger brother. Well, I tell you, Berlusconi, why I think they did that. Because they didn't want to appear to be like the Americans, changing regimes and saying who's coming, who's going. But I don't think the Russians really cared about that either. But the problem was that their brothers and sisters were attacked in the eastern part. And believe me, if Putin would have done that in Kiev, the new guy in charge would not have been probably recognized by the army, the Ukrainian army, who was controlled by the Americans. So you do that, you leave, and then that guy gets blown up by his own Ukrainian army, if you know what I mean. So Berlusconi, that would have been solved by the Americans in the minute the Russians were leaving. Or not even then, right where they were over there. The guy would have been killed, the leaders, because the military would be on the payroll of the same guys, which is the United States. Putin's started war aims were very varied during the 7-month war. Ukraine initially closed its troops from the, now they just propagandize here. It says here that facing widespread condemnation from opponents for his words, it's your right to have a different opinion, Berlusconi released a statement on Friday saying his view had been oversimplified, end quote. And I'm quoting, "The aggression against Ukraine is unjustifiable and unacceptable. Forza Italia's position is clear. We will always be with the EU and NATO," he said. Whistle. A little mild condemnation and maybe a phone call from certain groups, and he just went back under his little rock. Now, remember, if this guy just retracted or just had to say that that was, was unjustifiable and unacceptable, where I think Russians can provide you with many justifications. And as I said, in a conflict, you don't ask only one part, one side, you ask both. So the one side said, oh, unjustified. Okay, the other one says justified. Listen to the reasons and discuss them. Bring counter arguments, all right? Don't just dismiss them, because that means the other side can do the same thing to you, and there's not going to be any conversation, and we get to war. That's the last resort here. Now remember, this guy is a 85 years old guy. He's a multi-millionaire guy. He's got his businesses. He lived his life. He's got the top of the world. And he is just, has to say that. Well, that's probably for the voters. But when you do that, you lose voters. I listened to a guy who said, hey, remember when I got into this business, I lost some friends, I lost some people, but you can't imagine how many more I gained with this. So yeah, you lose those, but you win the other ones. And these ones are real and in accord with your feelings, your brains, your values. The other ones are not, because they left you. So if I say I like color black, okay, and these guys leave me, the ones that like color black really come and stay with me. And I like color black, they like color black. That means these guys did not really like color black or liked me. So they left. So it's good. Bye-bye. We're not together. It doesn't mean we're enemies from my perspective, even though I'm pretty sure from your perspective I'm a big threat. So this guy did not have to say that. Get the right voters. Under outgoing Prime Minister Mario Draghi, Italy has been staunch supporter of Western sanctions on Russia following the invasion. Now, Giorgia Meloni, I hope she's going to be elected. She's going to be the next Prime Minister of Italy, and her party, Brothers of Italy, remember that name? It says, of the far-right Brothers of Italy, tipped as the next premier, has pledged to stick to that position, to what Draghi said. But Berlusconi and her other ally, Matteo Salvini of the League, have been about more ambivalent. These are scandalous and very serious words, the leader of the center-right Democratic Party talked about Berlusconi's remarks. Well, and then the centrist leader, another election contender, told yesterday Berlusconi spoke like a Putin general. So you got the center-left, they're never far left. Well, okay, for me there's a communist right there. And then another one, centrist. Centrist means a weasel. He speaks, he looks around and picks whatever is convenient. No, you're either, left, right, or you're everything. And the centrist is not everything. The centrist is on the fence. That's what they are. So, Berlusconi just pedaled down, rowed back his boat, which is okay. I don't think he did continuously. He said, well, that's oversimplified. And I said, well, brute, whatever he said, unjustified and all that. Okay, well, that could be your position. That's fine. Next time, bring argument. Regarding Putin being pushed by his ministers and by Russian people and so on, well, if he refers to the Russian people, the ones that were being killed and attacked in the eastern Ukraine, yes, you're right. About his ministers, I don't think so, because if that's the way it goes, then Putin is not a dictator. That means he's not all-powerful and this criminal monster, second Hitler, as they portray him to be. So which one is it? And I don't think it was the Russian people, hey, you got to do that. And if it was Russian people, well, you do what your people want. Well, what the mob wants? Not really. But they were their people, the Russians, being killed over there. That was the main thing. And the threat of the whole mother Russia by these guys bringing NATO infrastructure to their borders. That's a tactical move that the Russians said, no, you can't. Like we bring it to, not to Cuba, to Mexico, to the border with Rio Grande, right there. How would you like it? Where they would not be so calm and so, oh, let's discuss things. No, no, no. Yeah, all right. And they're going to use atomic bombs and nuclear bombs the next second. Okay? I believe that. And believe it's a feeling. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.